contributions to that soil as well as your ground. And so what I'll do is these are big pots. I'm going to replace all the soil every year. I'll take your top layer where you'll use your plants. You can tell plants are just left over there. I'll take that out and around the generous. I'll take that soil, last year's potting soil, and add that to kind of have a rotation. So I can introduce some fresh soil in containers. What you'll find with containers is the plants will use that soil because it's a confined area quickly. Within 2 years, even less than 2 years, don't grow as well. If you're adding some fresh roots in there, and there I'm using potting soil. This is a potting soil. So our growers put this together years and years ago to our own recipe. Potting soil is a little tricky. Actually, surprisingly, it's the simplest thing ever. So let's make something of this. So these stones don't really much. So that. So put this in there. This soil, which you want, here's what we just stay away from their stuff. Okay. Great marketing, great bad, junk thrown in. Especially in dry marketing. So, our potting soil will perk and drain is the air. Lots of perlite, sometimes it's going to be this organic extra. Something to help the air be easier. So that's why it's so nice. It's actually puts that pH. There. This part won't be crash. All that water is percolating through all that ash. You pull it up, water your plants, it's super alkaline. So typically we're dealing with in the 7s. The book says if you can keep your pH down to 6.2, 6, high 7, 6.2, 6.3, that's neutral, the perfect pH. If you can keep it under 7, that's good enough. You can even scooch it up to low 8s and they'll kind of perform. The fruits will be smaller. The skin might be a little tougher. It won't be quite have the same flavor. As the pH goes up too high, it loses. It just doesn't, it's not as nice. If you keep it under 7, larger tomatoes, bigger cucumbers, better eggplants. Uh-oh, you're still playing with it, aren't you? Oh, is that me? Oh, I like hearing myself. Is it this one? Testing. How does that sound? Is that okay? Is that okay? Yeah, okay. Gotcha. We're trying this whole tech thing. You know, they make it look so easy. Oh, you do this and your life will be easier. That is a bunch of hog hooey. That is not, technology is a pain in the derriere. And then as soon as you get it, they change the app and upgrade. You don't even know what you're looking at anymore. And they do that every 18 months. So anyway, but we're trying to get better at it. It's a little company. We don't have a tech support. I've got a Ken that he does this for us and makes us all better. So we kind of learn as we go. Where was I at? Oh, pH. So this stays moist, yet dries out. This is a razor's edge on how to do that in a dry climate. And so we've been perfecting this recipe. Literally, it's kind of like book cookie or cake recipes. Soil is sort of the same way. So we make our own soils. And this one will grow better than anything. I've never been able to find anything better, and we'll test it. Every couple of years, we go test different soils to make sure they're growing better. This is what our plants are started in. So what our cuttings, our seed, we start it in this. So it's a good mix of staying moist, but not too moist. Otherwise, it'll dry and become a rock. It's organic. It's got a 5-5-5 organic fertilizer, that kind of stuff. Going back to where I started, and then I'll move on. Sorry, soapbox. Stay away from Miracle-Gro. It's terrible. You'll kill stuff with it. So anyway, it's salt-based, just not a nice, for Arizona, not a nice, it works against your alkalinity. There, I'll just top it off to the top of the container, and I'll plant directly in it. If you've got some smaller raised beds or raised beds, especially new raised beds, your classic 4x8, whatever size bed, there I tell folks, it's such a big volume, you're ordering the soil in bulk from some soil company. Basically, it's a rock company that has some soil because they keep having demand for it. Their other job is they go and they dig out stock tanks because we're in ranch country. So they go take all the stock tank because it fills in with sediment. They take that and they go, it looks rich, but it's silt. It stays really wet. It's actually worse than clay. So they'll cut that with free wood chips, and then they'll add some free horse manure. They blend it all together and they call it garden mix. It's very difficult to grow in. There I'll tell folks, at least it'll probably perk. Fill up your beds, use that as filler. And then the top layer where you're going to be gardening in at that whatever depth that is, in that top layer, just add straight potting soil. Don't blend it. Just add that top layer as water's potting soil. And now when you take that seedling, so we've got all kinds of things, broccoli. You can plant that now. Actually, most people start this late. They wait until May to start putting broccoli in, and then it becomes hot. And it bolts, starts to bloom on you. It shoots up into flower, or lettuce will shoot up into flower. It gets bitter tasting. These plants like the cold. They do better when the nights are really chilly. So they'll have a bigger head, a nicer broccoli, cauliflower head without going into flower. So you'll get used to that rhythm of when to start things and that kind of stuff. But by March 1, we're full on gardening. For potatoes, garlic, onions, all the leafy greens, you can put all those things in. Yes, we'll have frost, and that's good for those things. So we have a demarcation line that local gardeners use. We call it Mother's Day. That's typically our last frost date. So all your cool season things should be planted well before that frost date. So you should plant those in March and April. You're harvesting those heavy by May. By the end of June, it's hot. These things, they're done. I'm going to pull them out because they're taking up garden space and they're not going to perform very well. And there I'm going to put my summer thing. So after the end of April, first part of May, somewhere the weather will tell you. Then I'll start putting things that form a fruit. Tomatoes, cucumbers, watermelons, pumpkins, things that form a fruit on those are all summer plants. They do not like anything about the spring of the mountains. It gets too cold at night. They just shut down, they don't grow. They'll sit there and look at you till the end of June. They just kind of wait till it's warm enough. As soon as that soil warms up, they just take over. Then it looks like Jurassic Park. Your tomatoes go to, pumpkins just take over. So there's a seasonality to it. Right now we're coming into our early spring planting season. And you really want to have your soils prepped about 2 to 3 weeks before the planting season so that it has time to kind of settle and percolate, especially if you're adding a lot of manure. That's very hot, especially if you're doing like bird, chicken, turkey manures. They're very hot. You don't want to just amend your soil and then start plugging right away, or you can burn the new seedlings. So you want to let it settle for a couple of weeks. So you're trying to get ahead of this, so your timing is perfect for doing all this. So that's the reason for the class today instead of in April. So it's a better timing. Okay, up to about this far from the top of the pot. I want to leave room for, so I can water it, basically. And so it's easier for me to, I've had 2 back surgeries. I don't like bending over. I can't bend over like I used to. So I kind of want raised beds where I can sit on the edge and kind of be right there. I like containers because they're up there, right there, where I can get to them much easier. It's easier for me. And it's more fun. And it's more successful for me. Okay, so now out in the raised beds or in the open gardens, what do? I'm going to quote the book a little bit. You want 2 to 3 inch layer of organic material blended to 1 shovel's depth or 1 rototiller depth or 1, I mean, you can go all English and double dig and all this. I think that's a lot of work. Just turn it, get it in that top layer where the roots are going to grow. Most plants are in that top 8-inch layer. A couple things that like a little bit deeper soil, tomatoes like a little bit deeper soil, potatoes, carrots, especially the longer ones. They like a little bit more soil than that. So if you're going by block, I would go at least 2 block to 3 block high. So if you're going over to Yavapai block where they manufacture all this stuff, I would go to, that's 1 depth. That's what the book says, 1 block high. It's just not enough. I would go at least 2. I go typically about 3, mainly because at 3, it's easier for me to sit down. That's about this height now. So it's just easier for me to kind of garden and do that kind of stuff. I can still step into it, but it's easier for me to maintain. This is just School of Hard Knocks, things I've learned. I've built a lot of raised beds over the years. Every house I've ever had, it's either has mounds or raised beds. When I'm going to get that soil ready, and this is whether it's for vegetables or flowers, they're kind of the same. You prepare the soil the same. 2 3-inch layer of, typically I'm going to use manure right now. That's this one. So we create our own manure, mainly because about 15 years ago, I was loading. We used to get in the weeds with Home Depot and Lowe's. Oh, wait a minute! I'm not allowed to say those words out loud at my garden center. I berate employees for going, "You can't use that word." They're our main competitors, obviously, and so I was loading that up, going, "I can sell $2.99 manure with the best of them. I can outsell." It's my youth and arrogance. Anyway, I was putting this gooey bag. It just rained in the back of an Escalade or some Cadillac. I forget it was a Cadillac, and I went, "This stinks to high heaven, and it's gooey and gross. That's wrong. I'm up in place. Why would I put, this is deodorized manure. It doesn't smell. You can't see chunks of manure. Doesn't stay. It's actually, we take the bedding and it's barnyard manure, different manures with the bedding stuff, so it looks more like compost and mulch rather than manure. Yet it's still hot, so you don't want to plant directly in this. But if you put a 2 3-inch layer, turn it to 1 shovel's depth, it's going to enrich with a lot of organics and a lot of nutrients. Mainly manure is nitrogen. Remember, there's nitrogen, phosphorus, potash. Nitrogen creates green growth, fast growth. It makes tomatoes go woo like this. Watermelons will just take off. Lots of new growth. Now that's what nitrogen does. Phosphorus is that middle number. Phosphorus is, let's see, like superphosphate. Did I bring some of that? This is 0,18,0, all phosphorus. This forms fruits and roots. You want deeper roots, bigger carrots, more tomatoes, bigger watermelons, phosphorus. You want that middle number. Potash is that last number. That's typically going to be for disease resistance. That's plant stem, the thickness of the leaf. Just helps it be more robust. That's what that last number does. So that's what each of those numbers do. And then they've got what they call minor trace elements. Magnesium, iron, boron, there's all copper, there's all kinds of minor trace. Typically, you're going to get some of those. You don't need very much, but a balanced fertilizer will have all of that included. This is going to be nitrogen, 2 to 3 inch layer. Now, for me, I take a shortcut. I am the shortcut king. I have several companies I run, I have lots of employees. There's always something going on. Right now, I'm creating memes, which are pictures with pretty pictures, just basically trying to promote we're hiring. So you're seeing through all of our social feeds, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, going, "Hey, come work for us. Work someplace awesome. Life is too short. Work someplace awesome." Those kind of messages you see often. So I spend my time doing that. I wish I could garden more. So when you really get stressed out, I just take my phone off and I go in the backyard and I garden. Or I go help customers. Actually, this is what I love. This is my passion. Gardening, sharing, this is my passion, what I love to do. I've had too much accounting stuff. Hey, Vinny, you want one of these? Here, why don't you sit? Sit for me. Oh, good boy. There you go. There, good. Why don't you stay up here with us? What I'll take a shortcut with is, before I turn all that in, I'll add this layer there. So I've got a little bit of potting soil for my containers. I'm adding some more. It might be if I've got a broken bag of compost or mulch. We call it premium mulch. I might take some of that. I just want some organic in there so it elevates and revigorates my soil. I want to turn that to 1 shovel's depth. Before I turn it, I'm going to add a couple things. Gypsum. Gypsum is calcium sulfate. We're kind of notorious up here, and I think this is alkalinity related, and some of you aren't gardeners. Your hobby is actually watering. You tend to overwater stuff sometimes. And so if you do that, you'll get what's called blossom end rot. It's where the fruit forms, and where the blossom was, it gets this big black spot, or it won't form. Squash will form, then it gets yellow and drops off. Tomatoes will get this black spot. Bell peppers will have this, just start to rot at the bottom where that flower. It's called blossom end rot. Typically, that's a calcium deficiency. The calcium deficiency is caused by overwatering. The calcium's there, but it just can't get to it because it's so waterlogged it can't absorb it. But we're kind of notorious for being lacking calcium. And so calcium sulfate is an easy, cheap way to add extra calcium in that top layer of the bed. So that I will add. Actually, as I'm planting tomatoes, things I know like a lot of calcium, I'll actually take a little teaspoon and put it right at the bottom of the hole, plant it in. So I'll take a little bit of gypsum, kick just a touch of dirt over it, then plug my plant so the roots are going through the gypsum, through the calcium, basically. So, and I don't have blossom end rot. So if you don't do that, you probably will come back in July or August going, what the heck? I lost my first crop because they've all got these black spots. What's going on? We'll sell you some of this, and the next rotation of plants or fruits will come out clean. But if you don't, your watermelons will be a little smaller. Calcium is what brings that flavor out and the size, the color out on things like fruits, apples, pears, cherries, on tomatoes, watermelons, pumpkins. That's what brings that flavor out. So I'll add some of this on top. Most importantly, I'm adding fruit and vegetable food. We actually make our own fruit and vegetable food. So because we know where we're gardening, so we make our food for here. So this is 6447. We put an extra number on there. It's 7% calcium. Because we know that it's all organic. We just are trying to help our customers up their game so they can have more success. Especially with fruit trees. This is the best fruit tree food you'll ever find. It just brings out peaches that are just melt in your mouth. I mean, it's pelletized, it's organic, so you just sprinkle on the ground and it melts down. As it breaks down, the plants pick it up. But it's also really good a vegetable food. If I've got any left over, I'll throw it on the lilacs. For things that bloom in the spring, I'll kind of use it up over there. It is organic, so it's cottonseed meal and bone meal and feather meal. It's all the meal stuff because it's organic. Your dogs will like it. Kind of watch that. Coyotes will be attracted to it. I don't know. It might actually keep some of the predators away, like rabbits and stuff, because it attracts predators. They're going, I don't want to be over there. That's terrible. But great organic food. Great at turning into that top layer. It's really good. It really gets that calcium in there. Okay. For me too, also, one last thing to bring it up here, Aqua Boost. I love Aqua Boost. This is a polymer. How do you explain it? This is we're deep into the technology here. These are water polymers. They actually hold like 200 times their weight in water. And so we've infused these with mycorrhizal fungi, we're really deep here, so bear with me. They activate the organic organisms in the soil. They activate them so they start to grow. And so plants interact with mycorrhizae and attach to their roots So they want to grow deeper, longer, faster, deeper roots. So it holds water and it encourages roots. Okay, that's what you need in a dry climate. So what we're notorious for are tomatoes in July, that first crop before the monsoons come. They get big and then they crack, or they have real heavy, thick skins. And what that is, they were moist during the morning, so they plumped up. And then in the afternoon, when it's real dry, they shrunk up. They gave up some of their moisture. So the fruits are actually doing this. So it can either crack the skin, you'll see that pretty often, or the skin gets really tough. It's trying to compensate for that. So this evens out or balances that moisture between morning and afternoon. Best time to water any kind of fruit, any kind of flower, before 8 o'clock in the morning. Absolutely the best time. Do not water in the evening. That's the curse that Phoenix gives to us. That's what flatlanders, we call desert folks, flatlanders, that's what they do. Of course, it's 100 degrees at midnight. Who would live there? Here it gets down to 45, 50 degrees. It's cool, it's pleasant. You sleep with the doors open, the windows open. So that helps us. If you water in the evening, things stay too wet, too long, and now you get mildews and spotting. And tomatoes, they're just basically plants that want to die. They want to capture. If there's a disease, I'm surprised we haven't found out COVID goes over to tomatoes. That wouldn't surprise me a bit. They want to get diseased. So I'm trying to keep my tomatoes from ever touching the ground. And I never water them at night. I want them to water them in the morning so they dry out. So they go into the evening dry. That'll really play out for you with your squash. Things with a really big leaf, cucumbers, you really want to water in the morning. Especially if you're picking, especially pick in the morning too. So you water them when they're nice and plump and juicy, and you pick them in the morning because they're plump and juicier. They're tastier in the morning than in the afternoon. So yeah. Oh, this goes a long ways. This is not very much. So I'll take this is like a season's worth for me. I use it every time I plant anything, trees, shrubs, especially when I'm preparing my soils. This will go 4x6 area times like 10. Yeah, a little bit goes a long ways. So like a tablespoon for a plant or something, or it goes a long ways. Kind of sprinkle it on and add it. I add it every year. So it says it lasts in the soil for about 2 years. I don't find that to be the case. I think it's because we're dry. I find it works for about 9, 12 months, and then I can't find it anymore. I think also because we've laced this with mycorrhizal fungi, it's activating the natural stuff in the soil. So you're going to find more worms that are attracted to that. You're going to have more beneficials that are attracted to that. I was double turning my soil, and I found some spots really interesting. So do you know what a mycorrhizal colony looks like? It's this white, kind of cake-like matter that grows in the soil. That is like magic gold in your garden. That's the best stuff ever. I'll take that and I take it, I spread it around the garden like it's gold. So those are mycorrhizal colonies. That's naturally opening up. That naturally encourages roots to grow in your soil. And it feeds off of organics. That's your manures, so anyway, you can go, they're writing encyclopedias on this stuff. Guys have PhDs on nothing but mycorrhizal, how it interacts with the forest. It's crazy, but for you, my friends, just add some and you're good to go. Don't get rid of that stuff. It's magic. So spread it around. Spread the wealth. Okay. And that's what I do. Gypsum, food, Aqua Boost, organics, blended to 1 shovel's depth. I'll let it sit for a couple weeks and I'll start planting. That's what you can plant onions right now. A little bit early for onion sets. You can probably do onion plants for sure. Parsley is growing right now. Kale is huge. It's loving this weather. And so, and it tastes sweeter. It just tastes better right now. So you could start strategically planting things. By our first crop of pansies are coming in, pansy hanging baskets. They look good right now. So we're going to bring in, I think, 50 or 100 of them next week. So this is the first, kind of exciting. That kind of sets the stage going, oh, things are going. So in that first, we've had pansies for 2 or 3 weeks, but they're little. Pansies are like this. So this is a winter blooming flower. So mine have been in bloom all winter long. And quick for you folks from the more tropical, the Palm Springs, Tucson, SoCal folks, The big mistake I find people make with these is they wait to plant this until spring, like April and May. Well, these things are dead in June. You can't water them enough. They just go, I'm so hot. They lay over and turn brown and die. Insider tip, plant them in the fall. Plant them in like, as soon as you can find them, September, October, November, plant them then. They bloom. You get an extra 6 months of bloom out of them because they like that cold. But by June, they are, just realize this is an annual. It lives for 1 year, 1 year, and then it croaks. This just doesn't die. Most plants die in the winter. This one dies in the summer. And there's several plants like that. Snapdragons. They look great when it's cold. In the summer, they just they hang out there. They're green. They don't bloom like they did. They're spring and fall bloomers. They like the cool nights. That's when they shine. Kale. Now, did it bring any kale? I don't hear Swiss chard. I didn't bring everything. This is mainly about soil, but a few plants. This is Swiss chard. It loves the cold. And so mine is, I've been picking a little bit. I took it in the chin a little bit with this real cold. I'll clean it up, give it a little bit of food. It will take off here like in a week. It'll just be all new foliage. So you harvest this stuff, the best smoothies ever, the best antioxidants you've ever had. So, and it's pretty. It looks really good with flowers, like here, this ruffled pansy. They just go together. This is a bigger, taller thing, shorter thing. So the same soil prep goes for flowers or for veggies, either one. Generally, I find mainly this class, veggie growers show up, but the questions afterwards about veggies, there are some, the same thing works for flowers. Okay. A word of caution. We live in horse country. There are a lot of horses. And so when you own a horse, how many people have or have owned horses? Okay, so third of the group. Yeah, I'm right there with you. And so first thing you do when you get a horse, you bring it home and you go, finally my barn is successful. It looks complete. And then you go out and you go inside, you make a sign. Usually it's handwritten. It's about this big. You put it on a fence post or stake or something. You put it out in the front yard and you go, free manure. Because these things produce piles quick. And you can't ever use it all up. Horse manure is really good. Just don't use it fresh. So you want it to age, you want it to compost for about 9 to 12 months. So don't use this year's manure in this year's garden or you'll have salt burn. Or mainly the biggest mistake I find people have, there's this beautiful grub. It's about this big. It looks like an alien life form because it crawl in bed with you and suck on your jugular or something or impregnate in your cranial, whatever, take over your body. It's huge. But the beetle form, so grubs are beetles. In the summer, it turns into this great big black beetle with this horn on it. But the grub stage, they love horse manure piles. So I've had more customers over the years take manure, add it to their gardens, and they just added this grub into their garden, and then it's eating the roots on their plants. And so the plants are collapsing in June and July because they introduced this. Just be aware. Just watch for that. If that's plus horses don't digest. They basically whatever goes in comes out the other side. So you're getting alfalfa and Bermuda and everything else. You get all of that. If you compost it first, it gets rid of it. But if you're buying barnyard manure from Waters Garden Center, we've already done all of that for you. So you got to be good at sales. So I had a small business owner going, Ken, could you give me some advice? You're so smart. You've been around so long. Here's the main thing. Just answer your phone and always do what you say you're gonna do. Always do it, no matter what. That's pretty easy stuff. So anyway, and then you got to be good at everything: accounting, insurance, promotions, marketing, PR. You got to be good at all of it. You can't just have a good spaghetti recipe. You got to actually be good at business all together. Anyway. I do add it every year. That's a good question. Do I add that? This is something I do every year. Another mistake I can find, some of you are dealing with virgin soil, never been gardening before. In Prescott Valley, the backside, it's terrible. Paquito Valley, Paulden, these newer properties, the old farmland, which has all been used up, has great soil. But all the ridge lines have the pretty views, the valleys, rainbows. Prescott Valley is the only place where I've seen 3 rainbows at the same time. That's pretty awesome. But the soil is terrible. And so what you'll find is you'll do all this work and It worked, but not as well as you thought it would. Soils, especially with brand new soil, it could take 2-3 years to get the soil up where it's really active and vital, where it's really successful. So don't think once and done. It's something you're going to use. Another big mistake I find, a lot of the old Prescottonian homes, they're coming up for sale. You know, they aged out, they're going to move with the grandkids or whatever. They got these old beds. They probably haven't been gardening for like 10 years. But it's a raised bed. It looks like it's got good soil. I see a lot of folks make a mistake where they just go, oh, it's good, it got to be good enough. They start plugging, and they go, I don't know what's going on. I'm a terrible gardener. I'm going, well, no. You just use the old leftover stuff that had no vitality left. The plants never had a chance. So you need to freshen those beds up before you just start plugging them. The other one to watch too, another mistake, just things, again, my name's Ken. We're neighbors talking over the back fence. This is working for me. I think this will work for you. Don't add a lot of, what are some myths? Coffee grounds are really good for the garden. That's true. They are actually inert. They don't do anything for the garden. First of all, you can't drink enough coffee to add enough to make any difference. Then it does lower the pH a little bit. That's all it does. So it's good, but you can never add enough. I see too many folks just go, well, that's all I have to do. A couple of cups of coffee, pour the grounds in, all will grow. You need to do a little bit more. 2 to 3 inch layer of organics. Coffee grounds are this much of it, so it can't hurt. The other one is eggshells. Eggshells will help. Yes, they will help. In 3 years, eggshells take forever to break down. It's a great calcium source, but it may not be enough for this year. If you've crushed it up real fine, maybe put it right underneath the plant, maybe. But so many folks just take a bucket of eggshells from this last week, chuck it out there, go, all will grow. You need some more nutrients. Give it just a second. The other one is, now you derailed me. See, I was on a roll. It's on a riff here. It's going. What are mistakes? Things to watch. Oh, coffee grounds, eggshells. Anyway, it'll come to me. Yes, now I'll go to you. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay, good. So she burns wood for heat. A lot of us do. Are the ashes good for the garden? For the love of gardening, never introduce that to your gardens. Again, we're dealing with volcanic ash around our, this is School of Hard Knocks. I killed a hillside with ash. Actually, put ash where you don't want anything to grow. Driveways, fence lines, that's where you put ash because it will kill off and sterilize everything. Again, remember, this is counterintuitive. So if you're tuned into HGTV or Fine Garden Magazine for Chicago or someplace, their ash is good. They have no ash. Here, the ground is loaded with ash. In fact, we have volcanic ash just in piles here. They harvest volcanic ash. Big, huge mountains, they're all ash. So you don't want to introduce more. And then your water, what ash is, it's very alkaline. And so you're adding water to that ash and it just bumps your alkalinity off the charts. And too much alkalinity, it's like that's ammonia. It kills off stuff. You can sterilize your kitchen with ammonia. Let you just sterilize your entire garden soil with ash. So kind of just be careful. When some people ask for lime or ash, those are two things that kind of go together. And that means you're a gardener. You're reading, you're consuming garden stuff because that's what they're saying right now. Do that. I'll probably question you and going, are you sure you really want lime? Lime sweetens the soil. Everyone says put lime. You notice I didn't say that. If anything, you're putting sulfur, and I'll touch on that in a second. We're trying to always push that pH down because our water, as you water, the more you water, the soil is going to take on whatever the pH is. I've personally had a farm in Chino Valley where the well water was at 9.2. That's basically sterile. It kills fish, kills plants. It tastes okay. They say alkalinity is good for you, but no. We had to counteract all these different things we had to do to counteract the water. So you the soil will take on whatever that pH is. So you're always trying to make that soil more acidic. And that's why you're adding organics. Organics break down like peat moss. It lowers the pH. Drainage helps flush some of that stuff out. So just some things to watch. So, okay. Same with the barbecue grill ash, any of that kind of stuff. Don't add ash unless you do a soil test first. Then you might be able to a little bit. Doesn't take very much. Same with lime. So back over this side. Epsom salt. Yeah, good. Figured that would come up. That's the old Jerry Baker stuff. That's good. Remember Jerry Baker back in like the 80s and 90s? Maybe, I don't know, he's long since passed. Probably 10, 15 years ago, but his books are still around, but he's big on Epsom salt, which is basically magnesium is what they're trying to pull out of that Epsom salt. It's good. I never use it, and I have beautiful gardens. I think if you're doing all of this, you'll have the magnesium that's naturally showing up there. It will be released. The plant can take up all that it needs. Same with iron. I don't think you need a lot of iron. We have a lot of iron showing up in our soil already. What happens is, as the pH, we're going back to this is a theme. This will be something you struggle with. As the pH creeps up, the plants will stop blooming, or they'll drop their flowers, or they'll start to turn yellow, especially on the insides of the plant. These are all indications the pH yellowing starting to go up. I know it's starting to happen around July into June. We've been watering a lot, and customers will start coming in going, I need iron, I need iron, I want iron. Everything's turning yellow, iron. I've done a Google search. I know what I need. Give me iron. Well, okay, here you go. What you really need, you need to lower the pH back down. As the pH creeps up, it locks up all the minerals that are naturally occurring in the soil. So it's there, but the pH is so high, the plant is too ill to pick it up. So you see the symptoms show up later in the plant. Those are all indications. It just there's certain things, yellowing the main ring and dropping flowers. It's not blooming or fruiting like it was a month ago. What's going on? And it usually happens after you've had that drip system going for quite a while. And all of a sudden that soil starts to take on the same pH as the water, and you'll see those indications. So I don't think if you're doing that, I'd rather see you add more sulfur than I would adding the actual mineral, iron, copper, boron, magnesium. So I'm not a big proponent of magnesium. I don't sell magnesium as a trace element. I add it in the mixed fertilizers, but I don't sell it straight just because I don't think you need it. Anyway, that's my thought. In the back. Yes. So we're talking about temperatures of soils. Yeah. So I've got 3 handouts for you. One, we'll touch on this. We're doing good on time, so I got some extra time. We're in an article. This is the actual raw. Who is the newest person? Who is the newest resident of the area? When did you just move in? When did you move in? When? 2 months ago? Anyone? Can anyone beat 2 months ago? 7 months ago. That's pretty good. Welcome to God's country. Anyone else? Can beat 2 months? You're still sitting. That's a gardener. I still have boxes in the garage, but I'm going to garden class at Waters. So that's pretty good. So this is the article I wrote. I'll actually send you a link to the full pictured thing, the professional looking one. This is what I send the Daily Courier and some of those folks. You may have that. And then I'll send you the 4-step for fertilizing. There's 4 times a year you should fertilize. I'll send you that. We'll cover this real quick in the last 5 minutes of class, but we'll cover this. But I'll send this to you as well in a PDF format. Give me your email address. There's a clipboard going around. And sorry, I meant to send that out earlier, but we'll just wait. I'll stall until the whole class has a clipboard. If you're part of our garden club, you're not going to get that. It's only for the class members. And we have posted for you folks online. We're not forgetting you. We're trying to include you. You know that. So you'll see in the conversation box, there's some links in there. You've already got it. So we're trying to help you. Also, if you could, it really helps us. Whether you're in LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, that's the place that we're streaming this, right? So it really helps us. Like, Google is not the small guy's friend. Just like it or make a comment in the bottom, and all of a sudden our ranking goes off the charts. So interaction makes a big difference. If you could help us, that'd be great. And then come see us. Get off your stuff. You know you don't want to be behind that iPad. Come in. Enjoy the fresh air. Anyway, you'll have this. Oh, yeah, here. Yeah. Do I have a pen? Sorry, thanks. This is a Sharpie. This will be some of your writing is so terrible that I can barely interpret what you're saying. This would be too much. So, here. Are you sure?
Yes.
Everyone's going to touch it. So, here. I'm going to get one where I don't have to feel like, I don't want to feel obligated to another gardener. No, just kidding. Put the email and I'll have that off to you at the end of the day. Probably short and sweet, just 3 links. It'll be in a PDF so you can ease it, or an HTML web page. It'll be there so anyone can see it at any device, no matter where you're at. We're trying to make it easy for you. So all this doc file, have you tried the new Office upgrade? It's a nightmare. So like, no, I don't want any more Microsoft products. Okay. Where was I at? Yeah. Oh, temperature. Temperature. Yeah, I go off. Yeah. So, soil temp. I don't know that you have to track. I don't track soil temp. They make fancy probes. You can get in there and really check to see. I think more about seasonality would be better. Hey, Ken, why don't we add to that list? Maybe the vegetable guide, that calendar.
So let me be sure I understand what you want.
Oh, I shot you the links before the class started, so check your email. Sorry, yeah, I should have. I thought I said that. I was putting my microphone on. Anyway, keep up, Ken. My name's Ken, and he's referred to as K2. I think seasonality is more important. That is, the early spring season starts usually March 1 through about June, really Mother's Day. Mother's Day starts the summer plants. That's going to be your edible fruits, watermelons, pumpkins, eggplants, cucumbers, you name them. Things you're picking the fruit off, that's a summer thing typically. That does not like the cold nights. And so we'll plant those usually about Mother's Day. And then we've got another season starting usually about September. It's almost identical to the spring planting season. That's when you can plant broccoli, cauliflower, lettuce, kale. I mean, we're frequently having broccoli for Christmas dinner, picked from the gardens. So I think it's more about seasonality, working with the environment rather than against it. What you'll be tempted, the new folks, you will be tempted to plant early. And I encourage it because our vegetables are not guaranteed. You'll have to come back and buy a new one. But don't do it. Just wait. Just wait. Unless you're going to protect it. Some of you have greenhouses, you're cheating. Greenhouses are cheating. You can plant early, but for us normal people planting out in the yard where it's exposed to the elements, you want to wait. Really, I don't have time in May to plant. I've got time now to plant my early spring stuff. I live here at the garden center in May. It's peak season. And so I don't typically plant my warm season vegetables till the end of May, June. And I will catch up really fast to you all. You planted a month earlier, but the soil was still cool. Wasn't dying, but the nights are what get us. They're so cold, the plants shut down at night. So you're going, I used to have garden for years in Southern California, the Central Basin, in Phoenix, and things grow there 24/7. They never shut down. They double in their speed. Here, the nights are so cool, they grow only during the day and they slow down. So it'll be a different pace. So you want to play with some of that. Don't worry, that's just part of the mountain gardening that we do. But I would say focus on the season, not so much the temperature. Same with seeds. Seeds, I will almost start inside rather than outside. What I do is I come to Waters Gardens and buy seedlings, but you'll kind of want to backtrack the date. What date do I need it? And you'll have the calendar here shortly. I've created a vegetable planting guide, calendar, strictly calendar, and it's not Google downloaded. This is actually our dates, our times. When do you put carrots? When do you put lettuce? When do you put broccoli? When do you put these things in? The date. I'll have that to you, but that would be the thing to watch. I'm going to send it to you. It'll be, if you put your name on the clipboard, it'll be to you. It's coming. Yes.
So I'm in Prescott Valley.
Yep.
And I'm doing raised beds for the last 3 months.
Awesome. Yep.
But right now I have just natural soil instead. So what would you recommend bulking that up? I got 2 feet. I've got
Right. So he's got a raised bed in Prescott Valley. And so how do I fill up this new raised bed? It's about 3 feet tall. It's like the perfect height. It's like great. It'll be a little expensive to fill it up. So it's going to, because you got some serious bulk you need to get. What I would do, and he ran out last year, but I think he's got new stuff coming online. I would call Wilby's Compost. He's got a small truck. What he does, he takes the racetrack material, like bedding and horse manure, and he composts it, and then he sells it the next year. It's a pretty nice material. Mainly it drains. And so you'll be really tempted to go to Fuzzies and all those Prescott Valley soils, and they got a garden mix, but it will be silt, manure, wood chips. That's what it will be. It's terrible. So there, what I said was fill it up with the bulk stuff, just as filler, and the top layer, that top 8 inches or so, use water as potting soil. Go straight that top layer, and don't blend it. Just lay it right on top and plant in that, and the plants will go. They will just take off because it's the same soil they're grown in. Plants don't like different soil. They like sameness. And so that if you see a transition, they start to stumble. They go, oh, I don't know what to do. It takes them a while to get to the next soil type. If they see the same, they just go, oh, just keep on growing. They keep on rooting. So that's what I would do with that. Fuzzies is not that good. Prescott dirt, they got a decent mix. It just doesn't grow very well. It doesn't grow, yeah. It's the same over and over. Wilby's Compost, he's in the book. Tell him Ken sent you. I think you just, hey, Google, Siri, show me Wilby's. He'll come. That's what I would do. For a raised bed, I would not. If you're doing that, your money is spent on the potting soil. The reason I don't recommend, I mean, if money is no object, and some of you I know it's not, there I would just add straight potting soil. Blend that in because it's the best. It's peat moss. It's all the best stuff, but it's also twice the money. So if you really want to make the garden dollar spread, so you got some money left over for seed and tomato plants, I would do the manure or 2-3 inch layer blended down to 1 shovel's depth. But for raised bed people specifically, I would use a filler from Wilby's, take the top layer and just put straight water's potting soil, and that'll make the budget kind of spread out and go, and you'll have success, guaranteed success. Does that help? Yeah, online? Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. Okay. Oh. 928 899 5238. Awesome. Okay. And if you want, you can go back. If you didn't quite catch that, you can go back to our Facebook page. It'll be the top feed. Is it online? Okay, it is online. So we got reference here. The rookie found it on her phone. Why is it we all go someplace and we check our phone? Yes. So if I've got a raised bed, very good question. I'm not going to get anything past you, huh? We're going to go deep with this. So she's got raised beds. They're full. She wants to freshen those up. What should I do? Should I add manure? What should I do? There, what I try to do, you'll notice that the soil gets used. Everyone thinks it's blowing away or something. Plants are using up the soil. They're actually taking the soil out of that container or that raised bed. So you'll see it kind of drop through the year. What I try to do is I try to top off or add, for you, potting soil. That's potting soil is the best. If you don't need very much, just a few inches, just top dress your big containers. Top dress your raised beds with straight water's potting soil. So, not those other things. I would add the minerals, the gypsum, the Aqua Boost, the food, the fruit and vegetable. I would add those things. But the soil piece of it, I would add straight potting. So again, there's so many unique gardens here. But I didn't quite capture, there's nuances. Sidebar, we can help you, guide you through that. Okay, so we're trying to capture the most of it. Yeah. Does he mix that, if he's got some raised beds, do I mix in that potting soil? I'm trying to mix in mine. Not so much mixing. What I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to get out the old roots. If you've got old material in there, as it composts, it actually robs the soil of nitrogen, minerals and stuff. So I'm trying to actively go after those old last year's potato roots and tomatoes go down this deep, just things that are there, trying to get those things out of there. Now add them to the compost pile over there so that I can, by the time I get done, now I'm going to add some more potting soil. So do you have to mix it? No, you go straight on and just plant right in it. But yeah, you should turn this top layer of that soil some. So for my big containers, there I'm trying to take that top layer out to get rid of the old roots. That's what I add to my raised beds. So got some organics left, but it allows me to get those old roots out. I take those and compost them, and I add the rest of the soil over here, and then that allows me to put some freshness, some fresh potting soil on that top layer of those big pots. Every year I do that, every single year. I'm trying to add freshness. If I'm kind of famous for perennial gardens, so I'll use an anchor, a perennial, comes back every year. I'll use as an anchor, something tall, sexy, pretty, just kind of go, ooh, that's nice. And then in the front edge, I'll plant flowers, so it kind of spills life out, spills color, fragrance. So it's this designer element to it. As my summer or as my winter flowers fade, I'm trying to aggressively take that plant out of there, get it a little bit extra soil, not all of it, because my perennial doesn't want to be disturbed. I'm trying to take some of that out, add some freshness before I put the next season's flower in there. I always want color. I have to have color year round, or I get depressed. I don't know, it's too dark, the days are too short. I want to see one pot of flowers out by my front door going, I know spring is coming. The gardenias right now, the buds are huge. The lilacs are huge. The buds are really big right now. They're not in bloom, but you can tell as a gardener that kind of tickles your heart, kind of going, oh, it's right around the corner, it's going to happen. So anyway, something else back here, yeah. Yeah. So treated block, not treated block, or treated timbers, which do I prefer? I've used both. I would say stay away from railroad ties. There's some of those coming online. It's got so much creosote, nasty stuff in it, especially if you're, with flowers, not so much. It doesn't matter so much, but for edibles, I would not put treated anything where my vegetables are. Those chemicals will leach out into the soil and the plant will absorb some. There's no science that says it will or won't. Plus, timbers are dated. You can date your house. You say, look, railroad ties, that screams 90s, early 2000s. Oh, then they switched to 6x6 treated timbers. Oh, then they moved to Pecky cedar because that got too expensive. You could just date your house. Block is the new trendy thing. And it ends up being, lumber's gone up so crazy that it's almost easier, cheaper, it's longer lived block. Block is it doesn't rot, whereas Pecky cedar, 5-7 years, you got to replace it. And so I would say if you had a choice, here's a little insider tip. I go to Yavapai Block. They're off of Sundog Road. You can find them. And they have a seconds run. So developers will have, I need this color of this block. And there's always a pallet or two left over. They call those seconds. So you can go and get, they're usually cheaper. You may not be able to get the color you want. Can't match your exact house. But they'll have that exact one, but you can save 10-15% by getting the second. Just walk up and say, Ken said to ask for, you have second blocks? They'll show you. So the other one too, they make a real small block. That's one Depot. They make that for the box stores. It's not very secure. It moves a lot. I don't like it. They make a big beefy one. It's like 70 pounds a block. It's killer. But if you got to go 3 deep, and you're on a slope and you get some pressure from the soil and the water, hydraulics and stuff, this is engineered. It stays. It does not move. And so if you got a real big bed, go with the bigger block. The smaller ones, if you're just going 2 or 3 high, small ones are fine. We use a lot of small ones here because we're always moving the beds around. It's easier for the staff to kind of lift it and then move the bed around. So that's just some quick block. Let me go here. Hold on. I told you that I would mention fertilizing. Because we're an hour in, and it sounds like you all can just go all day, and I'll hang out for as long as you want. I'm not going anywhere. But I told you I'd mention fertilizing, especially new plants, or if you've got an older home, second home, you hasn't been gardening for a while, need some help. You're going to fertilize more often here, for sure. Our soil has no nutrients, especially the newer homes. So literally, you're dealing with dead soil. So you'll find your plants don't grow as fast unless you fertilize them. And so you're coming up on the second most important fertilizing of the year, spring. Usually we say about Easter, March sometime. Put it on right before things wake up. So the food is sitting there in the ground. So the plants go, oh, look, it's spring. I woke up and look how nutrient, there's so much food here. I'm going to just grow and bloom. You'll get better growth, especially new landscapes. They're just small. You just want it to be bigger, more mature. You fertilize it more often. Fertilize now. I'll tell you in a second. The first most important feeding is in the fall. We say Halloween. So plants are taking that food and they're using that and storing it in their root structure. That's the food they're using for setting their buds right now. So if you want more lilacs, better flowers for spring, more fruits, more fertilize at Halloween, October. When the aspens, the maples turn red, aspens turn gold, that's your cue. Fertilize that. We have a wet cycle here that happens in the summer. We call it the monsoons. You'll see this as you come in. If you've been here for a season or two, it usually starts about July 4th is when the monsoons hit. It might hit August 1, and somewhere in there the monsoons hit. If you can fertilize right before the rains come, plants get a little decimated by that June heat and wind. So if you can fertilize right then it rains, they just go woof. They take off a new growth. Roses will get a whole other set of flowers. Maples, all new leaves. So it can be a little ratty, but if you fertilize it right then, July 4th, you can really increase the color of those plants. And then for evergreens, we say kind of past that date, but New Year's, we have what's called winter chlorosis. If you go through your neighborhood right now, you see some pine trees got this off yellow kind of look right now. That's because they didn't fertilize. If you fertilize it at the new year, if you fall a new year, it'll keep it green, keep it from getting this off color to it. So if you're thinking holidays, think from the beginning, New Year's, Easter, 4th of July, Halloween. I'll send that. That's one of the handouts I'll send to you as well. So it's clipboard. It's a clipboard made it around. I'm trying to stall till it goes to this side too. It started here. Where's the clipboard at? Oh, good. So I got to stall for about another. Hurry up. This side's got to hurry. Okay. We'll hang. We'll get it for you. So what am I fertilizing with? And I don't know if she did. Oh, my team is so good. You know, I get all the credit because I'm the salesperson of this place. I kind of the talking head. But my wife, she's the most quiet, introverted person you'll ever meet. I'm the most outgoing. I mean, the bigger the microphone, bigger the crowd, the more I like it. She's the totally opposite. But you're attracted to the opposites. Okay, that's us. Well, she's here. She's the glue that kind of keeps us all together. She's kind of makes sure everyone feels good about coming to work today. I'm going, let's just go unload the truck. Let's go, rah, rah, rah. But they set this thing up and go, you're teaching today. Did we get it all right, boss? Yeah, this is great. This is the main fertilizer. It's called all-purpose plant food. 7,4,4 nitrogen, phosphorus, potash. So it's also got iron, sulfur in here quite a bit. So this is a food that lowers the pH and fertilizes the plant. So most things in your yard would benefit from this, especially evergreens. You folks online, just so you can see it. So all-purpose plant food. So we developed this probably 20 years ago. So it's cottonseed meal, bird guano, iron, sulfur. It's all the stuff you want. Evergreens will respond really well with this. It used to be flowers will really bring out the color in the flowers. Vegetables, because this whole vegetable thing has gone ballistic. And for younger folks, it's organics. It's all organic, sustainable. This is a big deal. And we're kind of thinking those terms. This is not truly organic because once you put a mineral in it, you can't technically call it organic. You call it natural, but iron is not it's a mineral, not a, so you're getting the technicals of what is truly organic. So we made this one, the fruit and vegetable food. This is pure organic, 100%. So for my edibles, I would do this. Fruit trees, grapes, berries, I would do this. Oops. For everything else, I would do the all-purpose. That's me. If you have some of this left over, it'd be great for maple trees. It'd be fine. but I think that one's probably mixed. The recipe for that is made for more of the evergreens. This is made for fruit and things that form a fruit, okay? Makes sense. We're into technical stuff. But anyway, for my spring gardens, I sling everything, the all-purpose plant food on everything. When I'm blending my soils for my vegetables, I'm adding the fruit and vegetable food. Everything else gets all-purpose. At the same time, I'm adding soil sulfur. I'll buy a bag of this. Soil sulfur is our solution to hydrated lime. So everywhere else in the country, they say lime sweetens the soil. Don't do that to your garden or you'll kill it. But sulfur is what you want to, is the opposite of that. So it lowers that pH and makes it more acidic. Literally, it looks like little tiny sulfur pellets, and that's what it is. And I don't work any of these in. I simply sling it on the ground. It goes through the rock, goes through the weed fabric, goes through the garden, through the wood chips, whatever you've got. It kind of liquefies and melts down over about a 3-month period. So it slowly breaks down and becomes available to that plant over a very long period of time. Mistake a lot of folks make, they'll go out and buy a box of Miracle-Gro from Costco. I'm sure we'll get a restick. Anyway, don't buy a plant from a warehouse. Plants don't like the inside to the outside. It won't do that well. And don't stay away from Miracle-Gro. Liquids are not what you want to use here. So liquids go through the soil so fast that literally for trees and shrubs, by the time it's ready to pick it up, it's already gone out of the soil. So it's very little of it's picked up. That and it's salt base. I go into the chemistry of the whole thing. Yeah. You know, you new people are awfully needy, but soil sulfur, you'll have this note here. It'll be right here. So you'll have the handout here by the end of the day. So in the spring, I do that. So all-purpose soil sulfur. In the summer, that July mix, I'll add all-purpose, 744 all-purpose, and I put humic acid, which I did see just drop. No, here, I got one here. I'll add this in the summer. This is what happens. Plants get really stressed in the summer because it's so hot and dry. It's just mainly less than 10% humidity with the prevailing wind. That's hard on plants, all this new growth. So if I put this on, this encourages more roots, and then the food actually feeds it. And I find it just recovers really fast. So and in the fall, I just use all-purpose. In the winter, I only use all-purpose. That's it. That's how I fertilize everything. So now you're now an expert. So, yep. Okay. No, you're good. So she's got a fruit tree, apricot specific. She new to you, didn't see it bloom last year, but she wants to make sure it blooms this year. Is it too late to fertilize? Did I summarize that for you, Raul? Go ahead. Your time to do it. Yeah. Your most important, Halloween. If you weren't here, you couldn't do that. Better to fertilize now than not at all. So yeah, absolutely. You come up in the spring. 2 things. We're going to get cold. So some things I use in my own gardens. So I've got a radio show, garden columns. I mean, and let's face it, gardeners, there's this competition thing. Like in summer, and I just picked my first tomato. It was so good. How are you doing with your gardens? There's this bragging right, okay? There's this thing that happens with gardeners. It's a sickness. They probably have a medication for it. I'd just rather be in the gardens. Some things I do, and this is unique to high altitude gardens, they make these things called plant protectors. They're basically, you plant your tomato. So literally, I will plant my tomatoes in April. I want to be a month ahead of you. So I can get on the radio and go, I just picked my first tomato. How are you doing? Okay, it's bragging rights. It just makes me feel good. So I put one of these, it's like a little mini greenhouse that you put over the plant. It's got tubes that you fill up with water and almost collapses and makes a little tiny teepee over top of your plant. Mainly it warms that soil up faster so the plant starts growing faster. But then if it does get cold, literally I've had it snow on top of my plant protectors and tomatoes, and literally it did not kill them. It just kept them going. It was beautiful. I've had them come out of this plastic greenhouse, and it got frosty. And there was enough heat. There's something about water when it warms up, it throws off heat in the evening, and so it protected that plant and it didn't die. So it's a little trick that you can that will help you with that. The classic that your grandparents used, frost protector. If you get a frost event that happens, I'm telling you, you're going to be tempted to plant in March, like tomatoes. And I'll have them because the hillside folks, the Baghdad folks, the Camp Verde, those folks, they can plant 3 weeks ahead of us. So I'll have them. You'll be tempted to buy them. But if you live up here in this 5,000 to 6,000 foot level, don't do it. Wait, unless you're going to protect it with a plant protector, or your parents use basically frost cover. And it's a white material. Don't use plastic. If there's a cold event, you're going, I got to go protect these. Don't use plastic. It holds the cold in longer and does more damage. These are breathable materials. You want to use something breathable. I actually had one customer last year. It was caught off guard. We'd run out of frost cover. So this is stuff you want to buy before. Don't wait till it's frosting, because what happens is there's a run at the garden center. We run out. You want to get it ahead of time. Don't wait till the day before. We won't have enough. But they ran out. She went and took all of her hats, just threw them over her plants. And I went, that's genius. That works. You don't mind a little dirt on your hat. That's okay. Anyway, use a breathable material. You'll be tempted. Just wait. Plant your early spring stuff. You're good with that. They don't mind the cold. You don't have to cover them. They're perfectly fine. But your summer plants, you're going to be tempted to go in April, March. Just be aware. You heard it from me. But that's why everyone, you hear locals talking about Mother's Day. There's this thing, Mother's Day. That's the demarcation line between summer and spring. That's why. With that, I've got to let you go. We've got an hour and 15. So I'll raise the curtains up. You can come look at the plant's products, take pictures as you want. I'll hang out with questions. And that just, thanks for coming, y'all. But before you leave, did the clipboard, where'd the clipboard go? Oh, I stalled just the right amount of time. I'll let you clap. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me open up the curtains for us. Did I get that right?